Todd Goldstein and Jayden LAVERDE have both been delisted by the Essendon Football Club. We're going to talk about what that means, particularly in relation to Todd Goldstein, right now in this video. So Todd Goldstein and Jayden LAVERDE will not be offered contracts for next season. Now, this was not particularly surprising with LAVERDE. LAVERDE was kind of our fifth string defender, if you like, and I'm putting Lewis Hayes ahead of him. Maybe LAVERDE, you could argue, would have been ahead of Lewis Hayes, but I think Lewis Hayes was showing pretty good form in the reserves and in the one game that he did play against Sydney before he got injured. So LAVERDE was probably our fifth tall defender, and look, he battled away manfully this year, and he's been a great clubman. But it's not surprising that he was going to get delisted, especially at his age in his late 20s. There has been talk that GWS are interested in him, and if he wants to pursue a career there, then good luck to him, and I hope he does, and I hope he can eke out as many years as he can. I think he will be remembered as a loyal Essendon player. And he actually played reasonably well this year in the last portion of the year when he played. I think he played 14 consecutive games or something like that towards the end of the year. But just with his age and with the profile of our list and the fact that he was uncontracted and the fact that we need to delist 10 players, it was kind of inevitable that he was going to be delisted, and that has happened. The Todd Goldstein one is a little more interesting. Now, going through, I've made a number of videos about delistings and who should stay on the list, going back, several months now, and I've said that Goldstein did need to be delisted. I think it's just with his age turning 38, it just was the obvious thing to do. But there's been a bit of a narrative over the last few weeks that he needs to stay on, and a lot of that has been due to Draper choosing to go to the Brisbane Lions with losing Draper. And Nick Bryan probably won't be ready until a month into the season. And a lot of the talk was that Goldstein would stay on. The problem is, if you look at the profile of the list, if you look at how many players we have on the list, and it was 47, and we're going to have 4, maybe 5 picks in the upcoming draft, you need to get rid of these 9 to 10 players. And it absolutely really has to be Goldstein, because you can't really justify keeping a 38-year-old on there. And I know some people might, in defence of Goldstein, say, well, look, we need him. I would just say, and all I would say to those people is I challenge those people to look at the list on paper and try to delist 10 players and try to make Goldstein not one of them. And I can guarantee you it's almost impossible, because I'm one of those people. I've gone through the list, I've had them on paper, I've looked at them, and I've done the sort of the mathematics of it. And when you try to get rid of 9 to 10 players, it's almost impossible to have Goldstein remain on the list. It just is. And look, first of all, what a great career it's been from Todd. Absolute champion at North Melbourne, one of the best ruckmen of the modern era. And we didn't see the best of him at Essendon, but boy, oh boy, did we need him this year. And he battled away manfully. He showed his age a little bit towards the end of the year. I thought he was struggling a little bit. But yeah, look, as I was saying, you really do need to, when you look at the team on paper and you try to do the, who are the 8 or 9 players that are going to go, he really has to be one of them. So well done to Brad Scott for making a tough decision there. It might not seem a tough decision, but there's been a suggestion that Brad Scott does like his favourites and is biased towards his favourites. That's been a narrative around Brad all the way back to his North Melbourne days, but he's obviously made the decision here that Todd Goldstein's career, at least at Essendon, needs to come to an end. Now, Todd Goldstein did not get a retirement game. That was because he wanted to play on next year. So he may play on at another club next year, we'll see. But if he doesn't, then I think Essendon could do a lot worse than having him as a ruck coach at the Bombers, which he was kind of doing unofficially anyway. And I'm sure if he does decide to hang up the boots in the next couple of days, they may well give him that lap of honour at the grand final, like they do with the retiring players. They put them in the car and they go around. So we'll see what happens if Todd Goldstein does decide to call it a day in the next couple of days. But what does this mean now for our ruck stocks? So our ruck stocks, we have Nick Bryan, who is currently injured and will be back early in the season. We have Vigo Vicentini. We have Lachlan Blackiston, and we have Peter Wright. We also, as I guess, a kind of 4.5 ruckman, number 5 would be Cale Girine, who was actually drafted really as a forward, played in the back line a little bit this year, towards the end of the year, but can actually ruck and has gone into the ruck at times. Now, he's not quite ready yet. So we've really got 4. Peter Wright, of course, is more than a forward. So I think we're going to see Lachlan Blackiston play quite a bit in the ruck. He was, of course, selected as a ruckman, didn't really play there. He filled in for a few centre bounces here and there, but for all intents and purposes, he was playing really as a backman. And I think this is actually good for his development because he knows the ruck. He obviously played there over in Perth, and now he's had experience playing as a key backman, but he's obviously more used to the ruck. So I think we're going to see Blackiston early in the season, maybe with Vigo, with Nick Bryan coming into the team, perhaps a month into the season when he's ready to come. It will be interesting to see if we're going to pick up a mature age ruckman or someone in the early to mid 20s in the pre-season draft or using the SSP pick, like that was the avenue in which we picked Tom Edwards. So there is a world in which Essendon could leave a list spot open after the regular draft in November has been completed and look for a relatively mature ruckman, for example. So there is a world in which Essendon can do that, and there's always ruckmen around at other clubs who are, can't get an opportunity because the ruck is an interesting position because it's one of those positions where the main ruckman is, the main ruckman at a club, and often the second ruckman is looking for an opportunity elsewhere. So there are opportunities to pick up players in that 22 to 25 age bracket playing around in the VFL who might be able to come into the club, because I think we probably need 1 extra ruckman on the list. I think you kind of need 5. You need, your 2 main ruckmen. You've got Peter Wright, who's a forward ruckman. Blackiston, who can play a bit of an athletic dual role, and then maybe another backup in there somewhere. So I think we kind of need another one. There's also a few other things they could do. Are we going to trade up a couple of our picks? And this could be determined on whether we get band 1 compensation for Sam Draper. If we do that and we have picks 4, 5 and 6, do we trade up to the West Coast Eagles, ask them if they are prepared to give up pick 1 or 2, and we could give them picks, say 5 and 6 or something like that, and that would give us an opportunity to maybe pick someone like Cooper Duff-Tytler, who, I'm generally not a huge fan of picking up ruckmen with early picks in the draft. But given that we have quite a lot of early picks, it's not like that would be our only selection. We would also have another selection in there as well. So that is a possibility that the club could look at, potentially trading up. I know people have talked for trading up to get Dersma, but, Duff-Tytler is also a player that has an Essendon, background as well. I think he lives around the area, played in junior teams around the area, played in the VFL with Essendon. I think he has a background with Calder as well. So he's a player that is, very much so sort of would suit us and is being talked about as being a top 2 or 3 pick. So that's something we could do as well. But that is something Essendon are going to have to look at now that Goldstein has retired. So I think it is the right move to move Goldstein on just with his age. But there's no question that it does leave us probably at the moment 1 ruckman short. So what do you guys think we should do? I'll just leave it open in the comments, so let me know what you reckon the Bombers should do. Should we leave a list spot open? Should we delist enough players and make sure that we, after using the 4 or 5 selections that we're going to have in the November draft, should we leave a list spot open in the preseason draft to pick up the best available mature age or somewhere between 22 and 25-year-old ruckman who's not getting a gig at another club? Shall we look at maybe getting someone like a Ned Reeves from Hawthorn, who's a 27-year-old ruckman? He's a player that we could potentially get in a trade for Zach Merritt. I'd like to get, obviously that among other things, you'd get Hawthorn's pick 8 and maybe something else. I'd like to get Lloyd Meek, of course. I don't think Hawthorn would be prepared to give up Lloyd Meek. He's rated, according to Champion Data, as their 3rd best player. I'd ask for it. I don't think they would give it, but maybe we could get Ned Reeves as a bit of a backup ruckman in the Zach Merritt trade. That's a possibility. Or we could trade up maybe for a Cooper Duff-Tytler if West Coast were prepared to give up pick 1 or 2 and trade them for 2 picks picks 4 and 5 or picks 5 and 6 or something like that. So there's a couple of possibilities. There's a few different things we could do. Or should we just go with the 4 ruckmen that we've got? Should we just go with Nick Bryan, Vigo Vicentini, Lachlan Blackiston, Peter Wright, and a very raw Cale Girine? I think we need another one. I think we need another ruckman in there. I'm probably of the view that we should look at probably getting Reeves from Hawthorn if they're prepared to give that up in a merit trade. And if that doesn't work, I would probably look at picking up the best available ruckman who is mature in the 22 to 25 age bracket in maybe the preseason draft or something like that if Essendon can have a list spot available. So I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to this channel. And as always, go Bombers.